do that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, g'day, folks. How are you? It's a Friday. Pretty good day for us, I suppose. Bit of rain around in my part of the world, but going to get a lot wetter over the weekend. I hope you stay safe and dry wherever you are this weekend. You probably won't be staying terribly safe if you're in Iran or maybe Israel over the weekend. I think life, the universe and everything there is going to get a little bit warmer. And there are two, at least, new countries who are being coaxed by someone to enter the war. One of those being Azerbaijan. Now, Azerbaijan are a interesting choice for Iran to go firing missiles at. Azerbaijan are quite a fighting force, but we'll talk about that all a little bit later on. We'll say g'day to everybody in the room, and I guess I should invite in our usual Friday night waving wonder. Here he is. Hello, Vincenzo.
Who's busily trying to edit a page at the same time.
Ah, that's no fun. Looks like I have come in to the chat partway through because I can't tell who was first. I've come in halfway through a conversation. Well, nice to see you all. Yeah, halfway through a conversation. And unless Hannah just starts talking like that, she's shilled for the job. No way I am listening to anything out of her paid mouth. Well, I've got boobs, but I'm definitely a bloke. You know, just saying, I'm definitely a bloke. Happy to prove it if needed be. But I've got an Adam's apple. That's how I'd prove it, just to be sure. Who else is floating around tonight? The lovely Sandy. I hope you are doing okay down at the Donkey Sanctuary tonight. Lady Rider's in the house. G'day, Robert. Nice to have you back up and stocking up. Yeah, I think a lot of people are going out and doing a little bit of stocking up. Fuel being one of those things. Vince and I were just having a bit of a chat prior to coming on air.
You call that a chat?
Well, it was an animated discussion. And after a reasonable amount of animation, we actually found out we were on the same side. But anyway, we'll get to that. We'll get to that shortly. Robert says, remember, 1 can of baked beans is equivalent to 7 vegetables.
Luckily, I got a lot of baked beans.
I could eat a lot of baked beans. I didn't know that they were. I gather that's the mineral content. But there you go. Learn something new every day. I can live off cold baked beans, says Lady Ryder. I probably could too. And I'm having flashback memories of Blazing Saddles. Does that mean anything to anybody? Beans around the fire? I'm sure. Go and look it up. Blazing Saddles. You'll enjoy that part. What that is in the house. Tony is in the house. What's baked beans? Baked beans are good for the heart. The more you eat, the more you fart. The more you fart, the better you feel. So lift a leg and let one squeal.
Well, you did say you wanted to do some comedy tonight. So obviously, I think the crowd must be thinking the same thing.
Well, yeah, they're all into it tonight, aren't they? Well, I was looking for a few laughs, and I will have one towards the end, but there is some serious shit we're going to talk about between now and then. I'm just scrolling down. G'day, Andrew. G'day, Ian. Hello, Paula. Anne's in. And Penny, Donna, all the usuals. Hello, Katrina. G'day, Toxic, and everybody else. Lucky, Scott, Katrina. Yep. Katrina can't stand baked beans. Well, good luck. You better go and prepare 7 other vegetables. That's all I can say. How's your week been, fella?
Fairly busy, running around doing family bits and pieces, getting some episodes done for Real Talk with Vince on the Freedom Broadcasting Network. We're now starting to get quite a bit of a list of interviews up. Nowhere near the 700 odd people. There's no way I'm going to get anywhere near them. And besides that, some of them are not replying, but there's a few up there for people to watch now. So some interesting responses.
So you can find them at fbnmedia.online.
Yep.
And
We have them on the front page, plus on our YouTube channel, plus our Rumble channel, plus on X, plus on TikTok, and on this one, Facebook, that one.
beautiful.
It's a lot of effort when you have to go and post to all these places separately. Pain in the ass.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. All right, I'm going to give you the choice. What do you want to kick off with? Babbitt, Jackie O, or Trump and Netanyahu?
Babbitt.
Babbitt. Well, it seems like Mr. Babbitt, Senator Babbitt, I shouldn't say Mr. Babbitt, has been asking far too many questions of his colleagues in the Senate, because if you read this story coming out of the Cairns News, God love him, Senator Ralph Babbitt has refused to bend to attempts by his Senate colleagues to force him to attend re-education training from what he calls a uni-party approved bureaucrat to be lectured on how not to offend the perpetually offended left. This lunacy comes straight after the Maoist Stalinist dissidents shamming textbook that has alarmingly and unbelievably crept into the Australian political life. Not hard to see with all the Chinese training they get. Babbitt knows this and has called it out as fascism, I'll get the word out, which in our context it is, since we are essentially a capitalist corporate state. Now, Babbitt tried very hard in very recent times to have a bit of a chat about the lack of freedom of speech in the Australian Parliament. And he tried to raise and did raise a point where he could stand up and speak. Other members of the Senate get to stand up and speak in support of these things. And he put out a memo to everybody that said, this is what I'm going to be putting forward. We want to introduce a measure of free speech into the Australian Constitution. We should have that debate in the Senate. If anybody else would like to stand up and speak on this, by all means, this is the time to do it, sort of thing. So when the notice came back about how many speakers there would be, that's it. Babbitt and Antic. Motion number 417, Senator Babbitt's motion on freedom of speech. So in the entire Australian Senate, only Senator Babbitt, who is currently essentially homeless and just waiting for the end of his term because he's not going to stand again, and Senator Antic, which sort of surprises me that he is standing up there, and yet we don't see Malcolm Roberts, we don't see Pauline Hanson.
Good point. Although both of those have said about having freedom of speech built into the Constitution. So
yes, but when the motion is raised by someone, why wouldn't they stand to support it?
Well, one would think they should.
It sort of leaves them on, in my mind, it leaves them on the same side as the Uni Party.
Yeah, well, we are talking about that massive, great friggin' corporation in there. Who said they even got notice of it? Now, it wouldn't be the first time the government's hid shit from other members and other parties. Maybe by the time they got round to actually, here's the notice for the for this thing that's being motioned, and by the way, it's too late to say you're going to do anything because we closed it. It's not like they don't rush laws through in 24 hours and censor everybody. So, yeah, just saying. Let's not jump to assumptions, but it is noticeable. It is good to note, but let's not jump to assumptions.
I think we've seen that, well, there is no natural presumption of freedom of speech. There is nothing in our Constitution that guarantees it.
Not yet.
Well, not yet, but that requires a constitutional referendum to add something to it. They notoriously have been unsuccessful in the past when the governments have tried to change them. So if the people came forward and said, well, yeah, the people come forward and demand freedom of speech, I guarantee we're going to wind up with a vote that nobody trusts.
Yeah.
So,
well, it won't get past. It won't get past them because the government, if we all come forward, so we want this, the government's just going to vote against it because it needs the approval of both houses before it can move up. So once
the
again,
government,
not doing what the people want. But
yeah, and the government has the power to shut down, as they have done yesterday and today, any kind of discussions into things they don't want to talk about, into motions that they, they'll just shut it down. And we'll step out of federal and go into state politics. The Victorian state government has reamed the farmers overnight. They have passed legislation that allows the electricity companies to compulsorily buy the land that they need for their transmission towers.
Yep.
This is absolutely disgusting. And I'll be trying to get a hold of Andrew Wiedemann down in Victoria to have a discussion about what will be the plan when these assholes try and step onto the Victorian farmers' properties, which I believe is due to happen in April. But if this legislation is made real, and I have no reason to think it won't be, that could happen a lot sooner. What will happen with compulsory acquisition? I'm pretty sure it's a legal process, which will be paper-driven, and only at the end of that process will the trucks and the workers turn up to a farm property to try and get onto their land. Now, I don't know how the farmers are going to take that, but given what we saw and the communications that we've had with many farming people who are affected, not just in Victoria, but at the moment, particularly affected in Victoria, that's not going to play well. These are hard, strong, proud people, honest people. They're not going to allow a government to rob them for whatever dream this happens to be, particularly a government that is so mired in corruption that you would have to doubt anything that they put out of their mouth or down on paper. They are beyond redemption.
So, it would be an interesting law to look at. I'm just thinking of a situation where they buy or compulsorily acquire a strip of land for where the power lines go over, where the towers go over, and you've got this block of farmer property and they go right through the middle of it. How are they going to get to it to start off with? Because they've got to go across the farmer's land.
No, they will compulsorily apply by access road. They'll cut a hole in the fence and drive straight to it.
Yep.
And they will own the road.
That is wrong. That is just physically wrong. I mean, you want to pay leasing, go ahead, but buying the land cheap, and it will be friggin' cheap.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Good point, The castle was a compulsory acquisition. You remember the movie The Castle? The house was being compulsorily acquired. And bugger me dead, the vibe of the Constitution let them win. Well, let the House win, I should say, not the government. So is there a hope for that? Well, ordinarily you would say, yes, our Constitution would give you some protection. But you've got to go to court for that. That costs thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, of course, we know the courts are captured. They're captured by the assholes who are doing this to all of us. So to expect some form of compensation or justice or even an honest hearing in any court in Victoria is folly. I mean, they're going to wind up with a real civil unrest problem, and it won't be from young immigrants swinging machetes around. It's going to be farmers coming to town holding pitchforks and tractors blocking roads, trucks blocking roads. Look, I think the country needs to be brought to a standstill. And if our high fuel prices are going to do that, or the lack of fuel reaching our shores is going to do that, then I think Darren Bergwerf and I will be smiling pretty happily, because the country will come to a stop like it did during COVID, only differently. And you will start seeing a lot more information, I'm pretty confident. But it's going to be a very uncomfortable time. Uncomfortable.
The markets have already gone through the roof with the petrol as it is, 20 cents in the last 2 days. And that is for petrol that's already in our refineries or already in our storage tanks. It's not that petrol hasn't gone up. It was manufactured at a price. Why are we paying more for it now? Who's
the boats that are on there? the boats that are on their way to Australia filled with diesel, unleaded, and whatever else they bring over, everything in those holds has already been paid for.
Yep.
A month ago. Okay, at whatever the price was a month ago. Because that's how long it takes to schedule a boat to pull up, fill up, and piss off out of Singapore or Malaysia or wherever it's pulled up to go and get it.
Yep.
So you are being taken for a ride by the fuel companies again, and Australia's toothless tiger, the ACCC, oh, yes, we'll investigate that. But what are you going to do about it? Are you going to put a fine of $100 million over a fuel company for rorting the system? How are you going to prove that they're working together? Because they've been colluding for years and you've never been able to prove it. Or on the odd time you have, you've never been able to find them anything worthwhile to make them stop doing it. It's a bit like some of the bullshit that goes on with these big business people who are quite happy to screw the markets, if you like, because they make $5 billion out of screwing you and I out of market money. If you're in the gold and silver market, they make $5 billion out of it. They get caught for rigging the system and they get fined $1 billion. That's good business. They made $4, cost them $1. That's really good business. What that fine never did was stop them doing it again. And we're seeing that now with JP Morgan and the other big banks who are playing all sorts of merry hell trying to keep themselves alive in the metals market. Anybody who has been studying the metals market for a while, or even the stock market, must be shaking their head in mild wonderment. The Australian stock market in the last week has nosedived. It's taken huge losses. And yet, ordinarily, when that sort of thing happens, people rush to the safe haven of precious metals and buy in. But that hasn't happened either. Prices have been kept pretty much somewhere between, when you go to bed, it might be around $120 an ounce. When you wake up, it might be around 112 or 115, and then it builds itself back up again during the day to that 100. In fact, what is it right now? There you go, 120. 26, $120.26. It's up 2.4% this hour. There are little jumps that we've seen in the last few hours, but we've also seen a few drops in it. I think this is, as I said the other night, this is the spring coiling. It lets go a bit, it gets pushed down, it stores a bit more energy, it lets go, it gets pushed down again. So eventually when it does go, that silver spring is going to be very powerful. Very powerful.
It's interesting that it hasn't. That's the part that I don't understand.
That's the bit and that's what all the analysts are saying. It's going completely against what always happens in the market. And shouldn't that be raising flags to the corporate entities responsible for monitoring the illegalities in the stock market, both in America and around the world, but particularly in America? The RICO laws in America are very, very clear and very, very strong. Why aren't they being applied to the banks and to the big other companies, the BlackRocks, the State Streets, and the Vanguards? Why isn't it being applied? Well, because they own it all, I guess is the
I love that comment.
Back to 1 horsepower and a cart. Absolutely. Although the way they're going, they've been poisoning us all, animals, humans alike, for so long. We're probably going to run short of 1 horsepower at some stage too, sadly. Very, very unpleasant.
Yeah, I was actually thinking goat and cart, but never mind.
Well, I've got a couple of goats out here. I could have 2 horsepower.
Well, no.
Mind you, 2 goat power.
That's better.
But 2 goat power pulling me, geez. I mean, I wouldn't want a husky crew to pull me, mate. A sled dog crew. I think that's cruel and unusual punishment. Oh, look out.
Yeah, you have the RSPCA after you, mate.
Pete's must have had a bit of rain. His 550 horsepower got well bogged today. I'm not sure if that's the tractor or the Porsche, but you must have had a bit of rain out there in the farming areas of South Australia. So nice to have a little bit of precipitation. Silver spot price 119.41, says Kev. Well, I'm trying to figure out why the silver spot price changes depending on who you look at, who you talk to. And I have asked this question of Ainsley, but I haven't received an answer yet. Ainsley's spot price is usually the cheapest one I can find. Where I'm confused is that if you go and have a look at other bullion dealers, you find that their spot price is, in some cases, one of them in particular, is $20 to $25 more than the Ainsley price. Now, if you're buying, you really want to be buying as close to spot as you can get. I don't quite understand why there is that other
called
bit.
Profit.
Well, I know where I'd be buying my precious metals then. Do people cruise around and check out the prices at other places? I would be.
Well, when you're buying and selling, like if I was going to sell, I just wouldn't necessarily sell to Ainsley. I might look around to see who's going to give me the best sell price, considering there's a significant difference.
Yep, and you might be able to find someone privately who will pay you the difference between the spot and the spread. So, you can go halfway. I know there are people at the moment who are not wanting to sell silver that they have, but they're in a position that they have to. So they're going to people that they know who might have a bit of cash and who are paying over the spot price, but under what the retail price on the day would be for whatever product it happens to be, if it's a coin or if it's a bar or whatever it is. So there is already a bit of a market opening up in the back for people who don't want to go to the bullion sellers or the bullion buyers, because you're only going to get that low spot rate minus whatever they take off it as their percentage. So they're looking at trying to establish these little groups amongst themselves, I suppose, and it's a friendship thing. You'd only do it with people that you know, I suppose. But that's away from what I'm talking about. Why is the spot price different? Why? It shouldn't be. I always thought the spot was the spot. So to hear that it's $119 there, it's $120.46 on the international trading thing I'm looking at the moment. I have no doubt if I go to Ainsley, the spot at Ainsley right now is $119.92. But if I go to another one, let me just have a look, $124.99. So it's not $20 difference, it's $5. But if you're buying large weights, that adds up per ounce.
Just like petrol sensor.
Just like petrol. Yeah. So, I find that weird, disconcerting, little upsetting, all those things. There you go. Silver price, the Perth Mint is $148.33.
Yeah, but that's the koala coin. That's a specially minted coin. That's not a basic ounce. So you got to take into price minting in that. So, but we just have now perhaps found a new resource for the donkey sanctuary.
Silver.
Because with all, with all the costs going up, and we're talking about going back to carts.
Oh, yes.
There's a whole heap of donkeys that are currently now worth a lot of money.
A lot of money. And could be gainfully employed.
Yeah. You can start
I don't know how
renting them
Sandy
out.
Baz are going to take that news, but yeah. I better get Baz to work on making a few carts then.
Yeah. That was courtesy of somebody in the chat, by the way, so thank you for that. I did have it up there, but yes. Start renting them out. Carts and all. Baz, you hear that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool. I like that. All right. Well, what else is going on in the world? Okay. Two choices again. The Jackie O story or something akin to Trump and Netanyahu?
I'll go for it. I'll let you have your Yahoo.
Oh, all right. Well, let's have the Yahoo part of it, shall we? There is some interesting things have come to light today regarding the Kyle and Jackie O saga. I alluded to a few things last night.
Yahoo.
Oh,
You said
sorry.
Netanyahu,
See,
and I went,
see,
oh,
I-
you have your Yahoo.
Yeah, you're right. And then when you said that, I thought of Kyle as a Yahoo. All right, let's do Trump. Trump demands Israel's President Herzog grants Netanyahu a pardon immediately. On Herzog, he is a disgrace. He should grant a pardon today. I don't want anything to occupy Netanyahu's mind except war. Well, I think that's a pretty failed statement. I don't think anything's occupied Netanyahu's mind other than war ever in the last 40 years. An absolutely piss-poor statement from a bloke we should expect more of. Now, Netanyahu should get a pardon. Did you know that he needed one? And did you know that Trump is calling on the president of Israel, not the prime minister, that's Netanyahu, the president of Israel, to provide this pardon? That's Herzog, the guy who was in Australia recently after the Bondi massacre and spent time very quietly with a secret meeting with this guy. You might remember that that guy had a very secret meeting with one Kash Patel when Kash Patel wound up in New Zealand to sack some people over there and then wound up here in Australia just to see this bloke. No other reason. He had no other meeting with anybody else in the country. He just met that bloke. Herzog had a similar meeting, but much quieter, much more secret. And that raises interesting questions. So Herzog is refusing to give Netanyahu a pardon. Why would the president of Israel refuse to give the prime minister of Israel a pardon? What's he been accused of? Well, Netanyahu was accused of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust in 3 separate corruption cases involving exchanging political favors for gifts and favorable media coverage, charges that he denies, of course. In November 2024, the ICC also issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu and quite a few other people out of his cabinet for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity, including starvation as a method of warfare and intentionally attacking civilians in the context of the conflict in Gaza. Now, that's the charges the ICC have against him. Of course, the ICC, toothless tigers as well, don't have anybody who's going to go and get Netanyahu and drag them in front of the ICC. And even if they did, there is no procedure to deal with them as such. So they'd have to do something with the International Criminal Court of Justice or something along those lines. And we've got absolutely no hope of getting Israel's prime minister in there. And I sincerely doubt Donald Trump's. Donald Trump and Israel have started this conflict very, very poorly. They've used terminology that they shouldn't use, and that offers a different legal perspective on what they're doing. Trump has called it a war, and he shouldn't have, because only Congress can send America to war. You know, only the government can do that. Unless there is a preemptive strike on an American asset, which could be an aircraft carrier or something like that. So that's why the aircraft carriers have been positioned the way they have, particularly the Gerald Ford, which is essentially providing an umbrella of sorts over Israel. I don't know that it's much of an umbrella because, as we are seeing almost on a nightly basis now, there is huge amounts of devastation in Israel. There is also some truly awful video coming out of Iran. The video that I've seen today, it was called carpet bombing. And the B-52s are over Iran, but they are not carpet bombing Tehran. The rocket attack that entered Tehran today was hellish. And it looked indiscriminate. It didn't look like they were aiming at anything other than the city and high-rise apartments. And I mean, I don't know if those high-rise apartments are government buildings or if they're people's homes, but you've got to assume there are a lot of civilians who are being killed in Iran right now, which is counterproductive considering that Trump is the one telling all the civilians in Iran to stand up and take their country back. Now, they may well want to do that. You know, the vast majority of Iranians may want to stand up and take their country back. But at the moment, if they stand up, they're going to get their heads taken off by a Tomahawk cruise missile or something called a Blue Sparrow fired out of Israel off a jet. That's what they use to kill the Ayatollah. The Blue Sparrow is a missile that is launched from an F-15 and then travels up out of our atmosphere into space before splitting, turning itself down, getting a track on what it's meant to hit, and doing it. They launched, I think, 7 or 8 of those just at the Ayatollah's compound. And as you saw, was pretty effective. At the moment, Israel is operating, along with America, outside of all legal boundaries. And the American people are starting to wake up. Those who have loved Donald Trump, and we've all been probably part of that at some stage, but I think a lot of Australians, like me, have been saying for a while, there's something not quite right there. And I remember saying probably 2 years ago or more, I still wouldn't, maybe during his first term, I wouldn't be at all surprised to find Donald Trump is that first big arrest, that first public arrest that Q talked about all those years ago. I could be wrong, could be terribly wrong, but the actions that Donald Trump and co are doing at the moment are not the actions of sane people. There are a number of discrepancies when it comes to other countries that have been attacked. This includes places like Azerbaijan, but also predominantly places like Saudi Arabia, where oil production facilities have been struck and, you know, damage caused. It has been now roundly proved that not just the attacks in Saudi, but other nations did not actually come out of Iran. They're not saying where they did come from, but they know where they came from. And I think we all know where they've come from. We've seen statements from Netanyahu himself that says he's quite happy to encourage other countries to get involved. He encouraged Australia to become involved recently. We played that bit last night where he said he warned the Australian Prime Minister about, you know, radical Islam and how Sydney and Melbourne were in danger now. And look, if they had a big incident in Sydney or Melbourne, then I think they'd change their mind. Bugger me dead, we had a big incident all of a sudden because Albanese wasn't playing the game. There is so much evidence, so many questions that have arisen over the entire Bondi incident. And now we've got a royal commission to hush it, to investigate it all. Don't hold your hopes up for anything significant coming out of there. The biggest issue I would like to hear from Donald Trump about is his law of war. Now, war has rules. Derek Johnson will tell you all about the law of war manual. But as Scott Ritter pointed out here, look at Kyiv. That's a city that isn't at war. That's why Russia calls it a special military operation, not a war. Look at Tehran. According to Mike Johnson, the US Speaker in the Senate, the US isn't at war with Iran, but Tehran is being leveled nonetheless. Russia seems to be telling the truth. The US lies. Russia complies with the laws of war. The US and Israel are the greatest war criminal regime in modern history. That feeling, that sentiment is growing around the world. The unhinged reactions of Israel, and now with them trying to draw Turkey into the fight as well, with one of their government ministers making a speech a couple of days ago saying that Turkey is our next big threat. Turkey are trying to surround us. Has anybody woken up to any of this yet? It's just, I think what's going to happen is going to be very messy, but it will draw a final line one way or another under the shit that's going on in the Middle East. It's going to be nasty. And the UK are getting further involved. After saying that they weren't, and they didn't let the US use the British bases in Cyprus for rearming, refueling, and associated other things. Keir Starmer copped a hell of a spray from Trump, basically saying that he was not a friend. He was not acting like a friend. These aren't, Churchill times where America and the UK could work together. Instead, overnight, the British decided they would allow access, and not only access, they have helped resupply certain elements of the US and their troops in the Middle East. I guess Cyprus needs to be congratulated for placing pressure on the UK for getting some ships there, getting some manpower, machines, and missiles, because they hitherto were going to be left, I think, to sweat. Ministry of Defense can confirm that the Shahed-like drone, which was targeting the RAF base in Cyprus on March the 2nd, was not launched from Iran. Again, if they're not coming from Iran, where are they coming from? They're not coming from Turkey. They're not coming from Syria. They're not coming from Saudi Arabia or Oman or any of the other countries that have been shot up, except one. So the Royal Navy are at least going to Cyprus. They are working in the resupply side of things. And Keir Starmer is no doubt going to lose more than one Muslim vote as they get closer to the next elections. The worry for me, though, is that the call has come out to Australia now to join the Middle Eastern war. So we do have air assets in the Middle East, and we do have missiles attached to those air assets, and they would have a certain amount of replenishment stores with them over there. Why would they be calling on Australia to be involved, do you think? Could it be because they don't have enough missiles of their own anymore? Because right now, that is the biggest problem they're facing. In fact, Donald Trump has called in the heads of Raytheon and a few of the other missile manufacturers and said, if you don't fix this problem, you're all going to jail because you have left us defenseless. I don't know how he can really get away with doing that. That's his threat. The fact of the matter is, this year, the Pentagon budgeted for 57 new cruise missiles. They fired over 200 an hour in the first 12 hours of the battle. They're replenishing them with 57 over the course of a year. And Raytheon have said, well, yes, we can up that. Trump wants them to make 1,000 of these things a year, and he wants them to do it now. He's been making bleating notes about, we have no supply problems. We've got all the armament we need. We've got this. You don't. They don't. It is that simple. Everybody from the military up is trying to tell him we're running short. There are no more missiles. So they're going to try and get the allies, the ones that they've previously sold armament to, but we don't have the kind of armament that America has. They sell us their old shit. Very rarely do we get the new stuff. So it might get upgraded. There might be some updates, or the Americans might just come and say, oh, you just give us those missiles. You keep your planes on the ground. We'll do that. Would that blow back on Australians? Would we be helping Netanyahu and Trump commit these war crimes if we were involved? And where does that leave Anthony Albanese? Because at the moment, he doesn't seem very keen to help. And not that I agree with Anthony Albanese terribly often, but I probably don't think that's a bad idea myself. With Israel and the United States now having a crisis of armaments, two things are going to happen. They're either going to have to find new armament from somewhere to keep progressing this fight until they find a leader they are happy to install. And that's what they're looking for, a leader they're happy to install. Trump's come out and said that the son of the Ayatollah is unacceptable to the American regime. Trump has said he wants a seat at the table when they select the new leader, because if he's not at the table, the new leader won't live to see the day out. Now, these are the kind of threats they're making. We have to be involved in who's going to be your new leader. That's Trump and Israel. All right? Trump doesn't open his mouth these days unless Netanyahu's got his hand up his ass working his mouth. It's that simple and that obvious. I'm bloody disgusted in it, but that picture is exactly what we are seeing at the moment. And the world wanted Donald Trump to stand up and try and protect it. God friggin' help us. There is some good news. Pam Bondi's going to be thrown back in front of the US Congress because she's not telling the truth about the Epstein files. Vince, if you're going to interrupt, you've got to turn your microphone on.
Yeah, I just realised that when the big microphone symbol come up, said it's like off. I was just going to say, just to make it perfectly clear, these are Carl's opinions, not necessarily mine.
Oh, well, you can have your own opinion. It's what it is. It's an opinion show. I've got an opinion about this. What do you think about that? Interpol have arrested an Israeli bloke who is the leader of the largest child sex trafficking ring in the world. I don't know if it's true.
I don't disagree. There are bad people in every friggin' society. Right,
I do too.
Yeah.
But what's the point? We accept that. It's just nice when they catch them, isn't it?
It is. It is so good.
Yeah. What else was I going to show you tonight?
Well, just before you go and bring that up, let's bring this up. All right. The Donkey Secretary has an article in tomorrow's Sydney Telegraph, people. All right. So never got good proof to proofread the story. This is why I don't read. This is why I let Carl read. So let's hope that they get it correct. Since all I have ever had was disappointment in the past. So everybody, right, go and have a check of the article, and hopefully it's a good thing for the Donkey Sanctuary. What else can we ask for but good reports by a newspaper? Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Did I just say something that never happens? Sorry.
I don't know that I'll be able to go and get the Sydney Daily Telegraph. It's behind a paywall, and I refuse to pay for that shit. And I don't think we get the hard version up here. But somebody will get a copy of it and send it to me, won't you?
Send a picture.
Yeah, send some pictures of it. That'd be great. So, listen, Costco have come out, Vince, and they've decided that they are going to help their customers in the most efficient, practical, and forthright manner possible, given the shortages that we are going to be facing regarding fuel and other essentials in the not-too-distant future. Have you seen what they've decided to install at Costco's around the world?
No.
Toilet rolls and petrol pumps. I'm joking about Costco.
Obviously, with the fact that we're all going to be moving to baked beans, that becomes an essential product.
It does. It absolutely does. Before I get into Kyle and Jackie O, here is something that happened not far from me. Aussie Sue, who is one of our wonderful moderators and a big part of our family here, she lives on an island just off the Brisbane coast, and they got a bit windy the other day, and a few trees came down over the island. Those were right out in front of her house. So I'm happy that they didn't wind up on your house, Sue. We're going to be in for a bit of bad weather over the weekend, and where I am at the moment had a tree that was sort of looking a bit weird, so they've taken that out. They expected it was going to fall over with the rain and whatnot over the weekend, so makes life a little bit unfortunate. And I guess, where am I at? I don't think I want to play that to you tonight. I've upset everybody enough now. I might play this one for you. Here is... you might remember a couple of weeks ago I showed you some Chinese robots that were dancing, if you like, with kids using their kung fu actions, and they were very, very good. Well, they've had an upgrade.
近日，一场跨域协同作战演练在某战术训练基地悄然展开。与以往不同，此次亮相演兵场的是一支由国产宇树系列智能作战单元与机械狼仿生突击平台混编而成的人机协同战术小队。演练模拟复杂战场环境下对要点目标实施清剿。此次演练重点检验了智能化作战单元在城市战、丛林战等复杂地形中的自主协同目标分配与火力打击能力，标志着我国在无人化、智能化作战体系建设领域又迈出了坚实一步。央视军事频道特约观察员报道。
I have some AI considerations. Hey?
So how does the theme to Terminator go again?
Yeah, true that. I have some reservations. Some of it looks a little AI, but most of it doesn't, sadly.
Yeah, like the one where the robot jumps over the fence in a sideways. Yeah.
Yep. And there is another, I think it's the same robot. It's hard to tell. They all look alike. It seems to take a step in midair as well, and is able to climb on air. So, there is elements of that, but I don't doubt for 1 second that there is this sort of technology available floating around in the world. Available soon through Roblox. Yep. 100%. 100%. All right. To finish up with Kyle and Jackie O. Okay, so we talked last night about Kyle and Jackie O and the issues they were having. I alluded to a few of the problems that Kyle has and will have trying to remedy the situation. So 2 big things have happened today. First of all, Kyle is lawyered up. He's got some $50,000 a day lawyers working on this, and it's smart that he does that. Second of all, Jackie O has come out and made a statement today that said she has never resigned or said she wasn't coming back to the show. And yet, ARN released a statement to the Australian Stock Exchange saying that the contract with the Henderson Media Group, her company, had been terminated. Now, if Jackie hasn't resigned, if Jackie hasn't made a formal complaint as such against Kyle, using the words that ARN have used, which is different. Bear in mind, I've worked for ARN. I understand and I certainly know some of the management that are involved in this, and certainly I know their history and how they manipulate situations. Kyle today, part of the reason he's gone and lawyered up is he believes he's been set up. Now, I did tell you that Kyle's got a big mouth, and he's been telling the world on the show since he signed the $200 million deal that they can't sack him. He will get paid out if they sack him. Even if the ratings go to shit, it doesn't matter. They have to pay him out. ARN had their profit for the last year or whatever it was turn up last Tuesday, I think it was. And they are 40% down on their annual profits. Kyle and Jackie O's deal depends somewhat on advertising revenue and bonuses and a few other bits and pieces, but their base salary is about $6 million a year each. And they make another $4 out of the $4 million each out of the bonuses and associated other things, except there are no bonuses. ARN advertisers are leaving the station in droves or refusing to buy any ads inside the Kyle and Jackie O show. That's making the bottom line very difficult for ARN, and they have signed a deal, which they signed in good faith, believing that Kyle and Jackie O would be able to create a show that could be rolled out through Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, eventually Adelaide and Perth, although Perth is a bit far away for ARN to really be bothered with. What they do have is a regional network of radio stations that the plan was also to feed the Kyle and Jackie show into them for the breakfast shows in those small regional towns around Australia that they ARN own a station in. It would have been an absolute massacre because in regional Australia, Kyle and Jackie O are not liked at all, and they would much prefer a local announcer giving their breakfast, even if it wasn't having interviews with world famous people and speaking about filth, as Kyle and Jackie O are known to do. They're the true shock jocks of the industry, if you like. However, things are increasingly looking like Kyle was manipulated. And Kyle is going to allege, I believe, that there was extraneous manipulation. There has been some, I think he's likely to allege there has been some conversations with management who have decided that the deal is too rich. They are failing in the markets where they need them not to fail. And this deal will keep ARN out of profit so much for the next 8 years. If they could sack Kyle, and Jackie O seems to have been terminated, they save themselves $200 million over the next 10 years. So their forward projections, their business forward projections, all of a sudden go from being very bleak to being, okay, all we've got to do is somehow get out of this deal. Now, what they've accused Kyle of doing is a big ask. If you've ever listened to the Kyle and Jackie O show over nearly 27 years, Kyle hasn't done anything in the show that Jackie got upset in that he hasn't done before, and that Jackie hasn't got upset in. Kyle can argue that he has done nothing different, and he can also argue that ARN approve him to do this because they signed an agreement that basically said he will be covered by them for any of their legal problems that come up. So now they've got to sue the guy they're meant to be protecting. No, it's very weird. So the fact that Jackie has now come out and said she did not resign throws a whole different view on management of the radio network. Because if she didn't resign, the terminology that they used in their report to the Australian Stock Exchange, which they had to report to first before anybody else, and I mean anybody else, found out, that has serious repercussions. So we're going to hear a lot more about that. And Kyle and Jackie O have been very close for 27 or more years. If they both got the idea that they were trying to be screwed out of their deal, they might consider protecting themselves a bit from it. So watch this space. I think you're going to find some really interesting presentations of what has allegedly happened coming out in the next couple of weeks. There's 14 days for Kyle to remedy the situation. But ARN have pushed him out of the building for 14 days, and they have served him legal notice that he is not allowed to interact with anybody from the radio station and not allowed to interact with anybody from Jackie's troop, from Jackie's side. So how can Kyle remedy the situation in 14 days if he's unable to speak with anybody that needs this remedied? So ARN have essentially wrapped him up, handcuffed him, and said, go and save yourself, while they've thrown him off the end of the boat. Right? How do you remedy this if you're not allowed to talk to the injured parties? How do you remedy this if you're not allowed to say, I'm sorry? He already has said he's sorry, but not publicly, I don't think. But he has to Jackie. So, yeah, I don't know. Going to be interesting times. So keep an eye on that one, folks. If you have any interest in the Kyle and Jackie O show, most people I know have no interest in the Kyle and Jackie O show. As long as it doesn't come to them, they don't care. I didn't think the joke was that funny, Vince, but okay. Don't get me started on that one liability. I'll get myself in all sorts of trouble. Yeah, so anyway, that's just a bit of fun from my radio part of the world. You may not be interested in it. I find it.
Well, it was your life for so long, Carl. We've got to give the fact that you are mentally incompetent in that area simply because of the fact that it's been ingrained into your subconscious for the last 40 years.
Well, yeah, and I like watching the politics play out. I like seeing the evil bastards in radio come out. And you know, one of the things that ARN are being accused of is bullying. They're being alleged to have bullied staff, have put them through the ringer. They call it the rite of passage in radio. Okay. The rite of passage in radio, for as long as I have been in radio, which is you may not think it's that tough, but it is a very tough business to be in. You need a very thick hide, and you need to be able to throw knives as well as catch them, because somebody is always throwing knives at you, as you can see in this debacle here. So the industry has always, in my experience, been filled with bullies, been filled with people who will stand over those who don't have enough power inside the radio station, inside their own job. There are many people still working in management in high parts of the major radio and I guess TV networks of this country who should be very, very worried, because the mainstream media are now writing articles about the bastardization, the bullying, and the standover tactics that are used when young people come into radio. And that's always been the part I sit back and watch now with a wry smile, because the young people getting into radio today get offended terribly easily. And their first port of call is the HR department. Well, I can tell you, in radio stations, that doesn't exist. They might have one, but they only use it for their own benefit. HR departments are not there to protect the workers or help them. HR departments are there to protect the management. And that's exactly what got triggered with Jackie O's conversation or letter to ARN. Now, whether they misinterpreted what she said or whatever, if they've announced to the Australian Stock Exchange that as they have, that her contract was terminated, they need grounds to terminate her. And Kyle calling her out on air because she likes astrology isn't grounds to terminate her. So the terminology that's now coming out, and that announcement from Jackie O today, is pretty wild. Could this be a ratings grab? I doubt it. They're in the middle of survey. There's nobody listening for it. So no, I don't think it is. I think it's a very badly timed problem. And the only way that they are going to be able to remedy this, because Kyle wants to go back on the air. He loves radio and he wants to go back on and work at ARN. He just doesn't want to lose $40 million out of his deal for doing it. Although Kyle's lawyers are saying that if ARN want to push this, then that's exactly what they'll have to pay him out. $40 million. And they raised some pretty good arguments in support of it. Better than any ones I've seen from ARN against it, put it that way. So what about Carl's apology? G'day, Gay. I'm surprised you heard about Carl's apology all the way over there in Oklahoma. I've expressed how I feel about Carl's apology. I don't know that I've done it on the show. I've done it to a few people, and they don't like the way I react generally. Look, hats off to Carl for approaching the subject. Hats off to Carl for trying to get some answers out of it. I do not believe that Carl is awake in any way. I think he feels a bit guilty, but probably doesn't understand why. Starting to get a bit of a taste for it. If Carl is dead serious about apologizing for his part in this, then maybe he can start doing some of the journalism that eluded him during the time where he was telling us all to go and get jabbed and get sticks shoved up our nose to break the barrier between our outer and our inner brain, if you like. I would like him to go and start interviewing people from the TGA. I would like him to start interviewing the politicians that forced this down our throats. I would like him to start asking those uncomfortable questions and digging deeper into how this happened. Not just say, I'm sorry. Fuck you, sorry. Hold the bastards accountable. You want to be Australia's Tucker Carlson? Then get off your ass and hold the people accountable. Or come and talk to people like me, Carl, who might have a few more arrows that you can fire and give you directions to fire them. But don't come out and apologize and expect me to say, oh, it's all right, Carl, apologize. Fuck him. Go out and work for your apology, Carl. Go and put the people who subjected the people of this country under the microscope. Find out why. Find out from the TGA. Find out from the doctors, from APRA, who stopped the doctors from telling the truth under threat of losing their licenses. Go and ask those people, Carl, about their experience during COVID and stop fucking apologizing. Start working like you should have done when this shit started. So that's how I feel about Carl's apology. Are we clear? So anyway, I hope it works that way. Vince has gone quiet, so good night, Vince. Have you recovered? Good night. All right, he hasn't recovered. Neither have I. So yeah, that's how I feel about Carl. Great to have him on our side. All right, if he truly is. Great to have him on our side. But one apology does not cut it for me. Now he needs to go to work on exposing what happened, like we collectively have been doing for years. All right? Go to work and expose it. Carl, prove to us you are sorry. Prove to us with all your media power and your might and your access that you can fight for the people of this country and not just apologize to them. Have a good weekend, folks. Stay away from the dickheads. They're everywhere. Probably one sitting in here with me at the moment.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!